Chapter 26. Her boots made no noise while she walked. The spring growth was still soft and green. Last season's grass lay underfoot and provided a layer of protection for the new growth, shielding it until it was ready to brave the harsh wind and sun. The morning was still cold, and the sky was still a white sheet. Barely visible flecks of snow drifted down. The predicted snow had come at last. A few flowers were in bloom and green leaves budded from each tree, and yet the snow came. She'd thought they were out of winter. The last few weeks had teased them with a string of hot days, but the falling snow carried with it a reminder that her human plans accounted for little. Oh, God.
I have a plan for you, too.
A tear squeezed its way out before she could stop it. Did she trust God's plan? That was the question. What if his plan included her parents dying and her husband leaving her? Was that part of the plan? What if his plan included things for her that were hard to swallow? God's plan was hidden from her, whatever it was. She didn't have a hint of it, not one tiny inkling. But like this spring snow, whether she fought against it or welcomed it, it was there. Eloise walked throughout the morning, tucking her hands deep in the pockets of her coat, mulling over the new ideas that were growing in her heart. Coming to the place where the stones made a crossing along the creek, she sank onto a large rock at the edge and watched the water as it flowed between each stone. "I miss you, Philip," she whispered. She missed his slow, easy smile when he woke up next to her each morning. And as often as she'd told herself that it was his own decision to take his life, it was only recently that she'd been able to believe it. It was not her fault. It wasn't. Oh, that she could go back in time and share with him what she felt now. Could he have found freedom in this life? What if they had studied the promises offered in the scriptures together? Would they have filled the void in him that she'd never been able to fill? Those questions would never have answers. Eloise found a small stone and tossed it in the water. It plunked to the bottom of the creek, hardly disturbing the path of the water. The ripples disappeared in the current. The water was on its way to join a larger body, which might flow all the way to Zeke's ocean. It didn't have the time to worry about a rock she threw in its way. She let out a deep breath. Looking at the sky, she closed her eyes against the brightness of it. The sun wasn't visible. The sky was completely overcast. But the sun was there. She knew it, simply because she knew it. Even though she couldn't see it, it burned her eyes to look where she knew the sun to be. The flakes of snow melted on her upturned face, but she hardly felt them because they were so small. Finally, she stood and arched her back. She'd been sitting so long that her legs had lost some of their feeling. Long enough that her nose grew cold. It was past time to be going home. Tobias would be worried if she stayed away much longer. With another wistful glance over the creek, she said goodbye to Ezekiel James. She squeezed her eyes shut, almost believing she could make him reappear. She'd tell him she'd been a fool and beg for another chance. But she was too late. Turning, she took a step toward Oaklebow when her ankle turned on the uneven ground, and she almost fell. She chuckled, remembering Zeke's clumsy antics from his first fall into the creek bed, their blunders in town, and his feet tangling with the blanket in the jail. She sent up a petition for his safety. Lord knows he needs it. She heard a voice in the distance. She cocked her head and listened. Someone was singing. A man. Only a few steps from the creek, she turned back. Her heart pumped as if it could run along ahead of her. She knew that voice. Was he really there? Taking the stone steps carefully over the water, she crossed the creek. Struggling up the other side of the bank, grabbing roots and tufts of grass as she went, not caring about the dirt being ground into her dress, she made it to the high ground. There he was, only 50 yards away. His head was ducked, and he was walking toward her, swinging his arms and briskly marching through the grass, and singing. Just barely she could make out the words. His voice carried to her.
Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not...
"Zeke!" she called to him and waved, albeit frantically. He glanced up, squinting against the snowy glare of the white sky.
Would you look at that? Chipmunks in the wild.
He pointed up.
It's snowing. In April.
His smile brought a swarm of butterflies to life in her middle. Restraining herself from running to him like a child, she waited for him to come to her. At his brisk march, it wouldn't take long. He burst into a new song, drawing out the words in dramatic fashion.
As I was walking down the street, down the street, down the street.
His eyes never left her as he sang, striding ever closer.
A chipmunk I chanced to meet, oh, she was fair to view.
Nearly 10 feet away, he asked,
What are you doing out here?
I wanted to say goodbye, she said softly.
You going somewhere?
He asked. He'd stopped in front of her with his shoulders hunched against the cold and his hands deep in his pockets. She looked at him, speechless. Zeke draped a hand over her shoulders and turned her back toward the creek. Taking up the chorus of his song, he sang loudly.
Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight. Come out tonight.
When they entered the shelter of the trees, Eloise interrupted. Zeke, I thought you were leaving. Gone. Agnes said you'd left. Left before dawn.
Of course I did. I had to get Susie girl to market on time. Didn't anyone tell you? I got $215 for her and the saddle together.
He whistled low and leaned toward her.
I didn't tell him how ornery she likes to be.
His face broke into a huge smile.
I was going to tell you all about it. Oscar wants to retire one of these days, and the Andersons have given me a full-time position.
He shrugged.
I thought you'd be interested, but you kicked me out before I could tell you.
He jumped down to the creek bed and started singing again.
And dance by the light of the moon.
He reached for her hand.
Coming?
Eloise stayed on the bank, dumbfounded. You're not leaving?
Sorry to disappoint.
He beckoned her with his hand. I'm so relieved. And Zeke, I'm glad that Rachel is your sister. When I read her letter, I flew into a fit of jealousy. Zeke's mouth hung open for a moment before the smile flashed across his face.
You snooping busybody. Serves you right for reading my mail.
You're not mad?
Darling, if you will come down off that bank, I'll never be mad again.
He grinned that cheeky grin, the one she would never tire of seeing. Holding tightly to the hand she offered, he guided her down. Needing to get a few things straightened out still, she skipped any preamble. The other day, when you said all those sweet things, you really meant them? For me?
Every last word.
But what about the ocean? I don't want you to blame me for crushing your dreams. He brushed a lock of hair behind her ear and smiled.
You are my only dream. I was scared to admit it even to myself, but I've discovered something wonderful about Okolbo. There's a woman here that I'd like to be beholden to, if she'll have me.
Sure will, Eloise whispered. Zeke ducked his head and led her a few steps before turning toward her again.
Hey, I was thinking we should...
She stood on her toes and kissed him squarely on the mouth, surprising them both. But before she could pull away, he came to his senses. Wrapping his arms around her waist, he kissed her back, none too shyly. Her hands found the back of his neck, and knocking his hat from his head, she ran her fingers through his hair. Eventually, and out of breath, she pulled back. I'm sorry I interrupted. You were saying? What were you thinking?
Hmm?
He grunted.
I'm thinking about kisses.
He angled his head to hers for another round. They both laughed, which made kissing difficult. Zeke pulled her into an embrace, his cheek pressed against hers.
Let's go home.
Acknowledgements. Hello, dear reader, listener. Thank you. This book wouldn't exist without you. Hearing from my readers is my favorite thing. It helps me feel less like a nerd who hangs out with imaginary friends all day. I would love to connect with you. Reach out to me at www.tashahackett.com. If you enjoyed this story, I would be honored if you shared your thoughts on whatever platform you are most comfortable. Reviews are a precious gift. Be sure to grab my newsletter for more stories about Oklebo. In Hearts of the Midwest Book 2, you'll find out if Tobias gets his happily ever after as well. To all the historians who cringe when they read historical romance, bless you. We try our best. A huge shout-out to all those who listened to me jabber about my book, especially my Instagram community, who cheered for me every step of the way. Specifically, I want to thank the following people. Laurie and her team at Electric Moon for accepting the manuscript and working with me to turn my words into a real-life book. Kelsey for answering all my 1879 clothing questions. Any of the fashion faults are my errors, not hers. Charles for kindly responding to all my badgering about Nebraska history and not running for cover whenever I cornered you at the coffee shop. Danae for the friendship and fun at the beginning stages of the story. I don't know where Zeke would be without you. Robin and Michelle, my biggest cheerleaders. Reuben for your priceless and honest critiques and encouragement. Mom, I never would have tried if you hadn't been telling me my whole life that I should. Jackie, for your efficiency and willingness to help. Ben Hackett. Sheesh, somebody give this guy a medal. You supported me through and through. Are you sorry I couldn't write the zombie apocalypse story you envisioned? Despite of a huge lack of zombies, science, sci-fi, or sports, you listened to every musing about every character and sat through the readings of countless scenes and their subsequent edits. You told me I should keep writing, even though it meant you had to do your own laundry. Patiently pretending to be interested in historical romance, you offered your true thoughts with your sneaky side smile, letting me know how cute you think I am when I get exceptionally excited about a nifty piece of history. Mostly, thank you for continually giving me the kind of love people write books about. Forever and ever, I love you. About the author. Tasha Hackett proudly sings all the silly songs and often pretends to be a ballerina while unloading the dishwasher. But her favorite thing is writing with hope and humor to entertain and encourage women. She is fueled by sunshine or hot chocolate, whichever is more readily available. Most of her time is spent with 4 chatty children and an incredibly supportive husband. They give her the kind of love that people write books about. You've been listening to Bluebird on the Prairie, Hearts of the Midwest, Book 1, by Tasha Hackett. Read by Stuart Goffey and ML. Copyright Tasha Hackett. Production copyright Tasha Hackett and ML.